Welcome to the Handcrafted Podcast, the business of making things. I'm Paul, founder of Philadelphia Table Company and the Handcrafted Network, and I believe great craftsmanship deserves great business strategy. This podcast is for makers who want to build not just great products, but a thriving business. Each episode will dive into the mindset, systems, and skills that turn craft into success. All right, guys, welcome back to the Handcrafted Podcast. Hope everybody's doing great. It's been a busy week for me, and we will get into that. So as a reminder, this podcast is brought to you by the Handcrafted Network. It's an online classroom and community for you to connect with other makers in the space. Historically, it's been largely woodworkers. We have a few other people because this podcast is hitting other people that are not just woodworkers. So we have a few others that are starting to join the group now. And we are going to be doing a special. For the next 2 weeks, we are starting a 7-day free trial. So if you are interested or you were kind of hesitant or curious about what it's all about, sign up. The link is below. Just click. You get a 7-day free trial. You get a call with me, and you get to see sort of what it's all about and see if it's something that makes sense for you. Additionally, within the group, we are currently working on, I've noticed on a lot of group calls and a lot of the community section, there's been a lot of questions about how to do sales and like sales type stuff, right? How to be a salesperson. So for me, there's a few people in the group that actually are professional salespeople that have been doing it for a really, really long time. So we're going to be putting together like a sort of a sales masterclass with professional salespeople, award-winning salespeople, as well as people that are in this sort of space. We're going to be having a conversation about that and kind of give you some tools and tricks on how to do that. And to me, sales isn't like, the golf shirt button up, swinging the golf club. I do sales every day. That's not my vibe, and that's not the vibe we're talking about here. So it's a matter of learning how to talk to clients, how to close the deal, how to make people feel comfortable. We're going to talk about all of that sort of stuff. We're starting to figure out a date now. I think we're probably looking at sometime maybe early to mid-July with that conversation. All right, so with that said, and just one more time, want to remind you again, we're doing free trial, but it's only for the next 2 weeks. It's only until July. Other than after that, it's going back up to no more free trial. So give it a shot now. Now's a great time to do it, jumping into the summertime. So yeah, if you have questions about it too, feel free to email me, paul@thehandcraftednetwork.com. I will gladly chat with you or email or whatever. So link is below for those interested in signing up. All right. So with that said, last week, very heavy week. Past 2 weeks, very heavy week. Past 3 weeks, been some pretty heavy weeks. So as you guys know, at PTC, we are dealing with some cash flow stuff. And I'm starting to feel better now, a bit better, right? I've started to pull myself out of a nosedive. I'm still not at altitude yet, but wanted to talk about some of the strategies and tips I've did to really get myself out of this situation. And last week's podcast was kind of like in the middle of it. So now I can kind of go back and say, okay, cool. These are the things that did work. And these are the things that kind of like were helpful. And then I'm going to expand on sort of like the last one. So the first thing that we did was we started to pre-invoice for projects that were already in the queue. We ended up collecting a decent amount of money from that. We started saying, hey, your project's going to be done in the next 2 weeks. Here's the invoice to pay the balance so we can schedule delivery. So that was a really great blessing there. The other thing too is I had to tap into a business line of credit. If you don't have one, I definitely recommend getting one. I had to tap into one for some short-term funding stuff. But as we start to, like I said, pull out of this nosedive, I'm just going to make sure that I pay that stuff down. The other thing we did too was had to pay a few vendors with some credit card that we have. So again, that's also going to get paid down as soon as some of these bigger other projects start coming through that I ended up closing on last week. And the other thing too is I called a vendor of ours, in particular, a lumber supplier. They're amazing. They were super helpful, super understanding. I said, hey, I need another week for this. super appreciative. So I think it's really important for everybody now, no matter, and I've been with them for 11 years at this point. So they trust me. We have a great rapport with each other. And I think that shows the value of finding really good vendors, people that you work with often, and as well as like vendor loyalty. I think we're always tempted to sort of try to find like the cheapest option for whether it be lumber or something else. But for me, there have been plenty of times I could have quote unquote jumped ship, find a different vendor. But I'm a big believer in loyalty. Maybe it's my Achilles heel. I'm a big believer in like supporting the people that have helped you from the beginning too. So I have been working with them for such a long time. And again, they were just ever gracious, said, "Hey, Paul, understand. We run a small business too. We know you guys will clear the debt as soon as you can." So those are the main things. The other thing I did was I hustled super hard on sales. So that's what I want to dive into a little bit more today, is what are the sales processes that I did? How did I hustle the sales, and how did I start to like kind of like move the needle a little bit? So what started happening was every sale that came through, or every inquiry that came through, became super valuable. So when I have tons of leads coming in, when the cash is great, there isn't necessarily a ton of not necessarily urgency, but I don't feel the need to like pounce on every single one as if they're my last lead coming in. Over the past week, I did do that. So I took every single lead that I got, every single thing that came through Instagram, through Facebook, through our Podium, which is our text thing, anything through email. I followed that all the way through. Even if it seemed like somebody was asking for something like low price, or something that like seemed like they weren't even kind of like the right client fit. Sometimes, I get messages where it's like the whole body of the thing is like, I need a table. And previously, historically, and hopefully I get back to this point, I wouldn't respond to that. Or I would just say, thanks, let me know, if you have anything specific in mind. But what I started doing was diving into these people and asking, specifics. The other thing too is all of my order requests, all of my online custom order forms come with phone numbers. So historically, I've just done a job of like replying to people from the source. So if somebody's coming at me from email, I'll usually just stick to email. Or if somebody's coming at me from Instagram, I'll just like stick to Instagram, or I'll just stick to text or whatever. So what I started doing was like sort of like a pretty, well-known sales tactic that I've always shied away from because I felt self-conscious and weird about. But I actually started picking up the phone and I started calling these people. So as I get a order request form in, and I'll kind of talk you through the strategy of like what I've done with each individual one. So as a order form request comes in, something through email, I'll reply to the email. If I don't hear anything within about 24 hours, what I'll do is I will throw them a text and say, "Hey, I saw your inquiry for a table. I responded to your email. Let me know if you have time to chat." If another 24 hours goes by and they still don't respond, I actually dial the phone number and talk to them specifically. "Hey, this is Paul at Philadelphia Table Company. I saw you were inquiring about a dining table. Are you still interested in that? I'd love to talk to you about it." And honestly, it's been like a lot of people have been picking up the phone call. And for me, I always felt conscious about doing that because I was just like, the last thing I want to be seen as is like another spam thing. Like we all get these like crazy spam phone calls. So I didn't want to be seen as that. But I had to remember that these people were coming to me in the first place because they wanted something. So I was actually able to close 2 deals that way. Actually just sent an invoice this morning for somebody that way, which was like a $9,000 table, which was a great incoming thing. Now, if somebody texts, like somebody comes through our Podium, what I've been doing is obviously replying through text back and forth. But then also I had a little bit like, so it's like if they were replying through text, or if they didn't reply through text, I would actually then call them right away within like 24 hours or something. So I try to always go that first route. And again, same thing. It actually ended up working out really well. Some of these people really prefer to be on the phone. And, the process is a little bit of like just listening to them, let them talk about, their golf game, or talk about whatever, their house, and asking them questions and literally just talking to them almost like sounds weird, but almost like you're their friend. Inquire, ask about questions. How many people do they have in their family? How many people they hope to seat? All that stuff, and stuff that's not even related to, the project. So like, for example, somebody that that person we were selling the table to in Florida, they told me what community they live in, and it's like on a lake, and I was like, oh, are you a boater? So we started talking about boats and like all this other stuff. And I think once you start talking that and breaking down the walls to the point that they feel relatable, almost like they can like talk to you in that way, I think they feel more comfortable moving forward with something. So that's what I've done with that, trying to find common ground to connect with people. The other thing too is we'll get Instagram messages all the time, or Facebook messages. So what I started doing there was preemptively scheduling phone calls. So when people are excited about the piece, blah, 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 I'll just say, hey, send them as much information as possible and be like, let's get on a phone call. How does 10 a.m. tomorrow work? Or how does 3 p.m. today work? And actually get their phone number, get their email address, send them an invite on the calendar, and actually schedule it. This happened to me a little bit ago where we had a bunch, this past week actually, where somebody was messaging me on like on a Tuesday, and I was replying back and forth and like, hey, I'm currently away. I'll look at this like when I get home. And I just was like, hey, when do you get home? Like, we get home Friday. I was like, great, let's do a call on Saturday at 10 a.m. And she goes, okay, cool. Send me invite. So I said, hey, what's your phone number? What's your email address? Which allowed me to continue to follow up in that sort of at that personal level, which is great. You want to go like as personal as you possibly can. The other thing too, I started doing was I call it shaking trees. I started going back to people that we've worked with in the past that I haven't heard from in a minute, maybe interior designers, architectural design firms, and a few of them actually came online. They're like, hey, Paul, actually, we are working on this project. Can you quote this thing or this thing or this thing for me? So I'm starting to work on that stuff. The other thing too that's actually proven to be maybe one of the more fruitful things was a few weeks ago when I sort of could forecast this happening. There's a really great designer that we work with, and I bumped into them at ICFF, and I was like, hey, would you want to like come on and help do some sales? And they're like, actually not really, but I don't mind connecting you with people. So going out and like actually asking them, and they've connected me with, I think, 6 people, and every single conversation's been amazing. So actually asking people for what you need and what you want, I think is valuable, because some people don't know that you need that. Some people don't know, hey, I would really appreciate a referral, or if you could send somebody my way, that would be amazing. So doing anything like that is great, even if it's past clients. Going back to past clients and being like, hey, it was really great working with you. I would love to, is there anybody else you'd recommend us working with? I would really appreciate any sort of referral as we grow our business. And I think not being afraid to do that is like really, really helpful. And these are all things that like I had to personally feel comfortable with. It felt really uncomfortable, and I haven't had to go into this position where I have had to hit sales this hard. And I'm sort of starting to develop a little bit more of like a sales muscle. The other thing I've been doing too is just like playing with sort of like conversation techniques, playing with different ways of closing. A friend of mine who actually is going to do the sales talk with me actually suggested, instead of requesting, so normally we request a 60% deposit, he said, why don't you try floating a $500 design deposit? So this way it's a less objective dollar value, because when they're having a conversation, what happens is, say I'm talking to the wife and then she wants to talk to her partner or husband or whatever, and she's like, hey, yeah, let me talk to my husband or my partner. I'll let you know what they say. What happens is, if I'm saying it's a 60% deposit to get in the queue, they're thinking, oh my God, I have to, she's pitching 60% of whatever, $10,000, let's say $6,000. Versus going to him and being like, hey, I found this great company. They'll work with me on a deposit of $500. We could kind of like learn and see if this is the right fit for us. That's a much easier conversation for her to have with her partner than the other thing of saying, hey, $6,000. So I've been playing with both options. I've been fortunate enough that there have been a lot of people that are just like really willing to pay the 60%. It seems to be no big deal. But now I'm starting to tool around with that $500 design deposit instead. And the way we're going to do it is a $500 design deposit. And then once the drawings are approved, that's when they owe the full deposit. So that's something that we're playing with here. Now, I'm sure you're going, Paul, this is all great, but what if I just don't have any leads? What if I don't have a way of bringing in work? I think the answer for that is you need to find a way to bring in work. So whether that be through Facebook Marketplace, whether that be through direct Instagram messages, whether that be through texting, whether that be through posting in Facebook mom groups, running an ad, going out, shaking hands, going to meet people. So it's like you have to find ways to start that guerrilla marketing. And I think overall, like the overarching lesson potentially for this call is you need to get uncomfortable. You need to be doing the things that you know you should be doing and are not doing. I think that's what really separates people, and that's what really allows people to climb to the next level, is you have to get out of your comfort zone. You have to be willing to try new things. You have to be doing the thing that you're afraid to do, but you know that you need to do. I think that's a pretty good bow. On it. All right. So with that said, again, if you're interested in joining the Handcrafted Network, send me an email, paul@thehandcraftednetwork.com. There is a link below. We are starting a free trial. You will get 7-day free trial. You get all the perks of being in the group. So you will get to schedule a call with me, etc., all of that sort of stuff. I'm starting to collect questions for office hours episodes. Please send me any emails, any questions you have, paul@thehandcraftednetwork.com. Hope everybody's summer is going great, and I will catch you next time. Peace.